Well, good evening, everybody. Today is the 26th of January. The nice little cool evening of the day. It was 60 degrees today. I got my army shirt on. United States of America. I like to call it my army shirt. OD Green. I'm here today. Excuse me. I'm here today to talk about a news article that I've seen on X today, which required me, if you will, to come out and to make some statements and at least give you some explanation and highlight some inadequacies of the New York Post article on the following. Governor candidate Steve Hilton launches Cal Doge to expose billions in waste fraud. This is about accountability. Really can't stand that word accountability. It doesn't mean anything. Let me give you a paragraph of what Mr. Hilton is trying to say. Key focus of doging California with his new, by the way, bureaucracy for the state, creating the California Department of Efficiency. That's what we need, is another creation of a government entity in California. I believe I addressed that with you when we had the governor forum that Ms. Yeater popped up, Mr. Hilton, where you and counterparts suggested that we have a new agency to clean California up. My stance was I don't need a new agency to clean up anything in California. I'm going to require the ones that we have in place to start cleaning house. Why would I want to incur an additional cost to the citizens of this state by creating a bureaucracy to, in my opinion, will do nothing more than find where supposed waste is, figure out how to hide it, and then redirect it under new accounting methods that we already know is happening today. Or at least that's the claim. Suddenly now, with Minnesota hot on the air, we've moved off of Mr. Hilton's discussion of the Palisades burning up. Not hearing too much about that anymore, are you? Or Spencer Pratt running for mayor. No, he's moved off of that because Minnesota has taken front and center stage, both in ICE actions and this fraud problem that they have, California being much bigger. Well, sir, I don't know what planet you crawled from, but California's had this problem for over 40 years. Everybody is aware of it. Local governments, state governments, legislature, Senate legislature, you name it, everybody is aware of the grift that happens in this state. Do we have political people who supposedly know what the problem is? Sure, they're the Republican Party in California. What have they done to stop it, impede it, or halt its progress? You tell me. Seems to be nothing. What have they done to alter the course of the amount of money flowing out of our state coffers into private hands? You ask me. You tell me. Seems to be nothing. Had a governor that we got into office. Ooh, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the man that gave us the jungle primary. Don't forget about him. What did he do to halt and impede the progress of the fraud within this state that everybody seems to know all about, has all the names, understands the full implications and the amount of money that we're losing year after year after year, and nobody has done anything at all? Oh, but here you are as a little Lord Fauntleroy on knight in shining armor. Just came into the country and you have all the answers. Well, sir, no, you don't. And I'm looking at your website and I can understand why you don't. From the New York Post, the key focus of the project will be identifying ways to reduce or eliminate the size and scope of state agencies, roll back bureaucratic and regulatory structures that drive up costs, and end redundancy. People have been saying that for years. It's not new, happens often, and it bloats right back up again. Hilton has also released policy proposals that, if elected, would include enacting a state hiring freeze Well, I would hope so. We're facing a $25 billion deficit, if not more, not only in this year, but in the next 3 years. Thank you, Mr. Newsom. Gino Gavin, as I call him. Eliminating 50,000 employees and revisiting contracts for 21 public sector unions. Let me give you folks out there in the internet land a little highlight of what that means by eliminating 50,000, 50,000 employees to lose their jobs up and down the length of this state. Now, I know Mr. Hilton is a TV personality star. You could almost call him a reality TV personality star, but I won't stoop that low. He has some entertaining knowledge of how government works from being in the United Kingdom government facilities. Look at that nation and where they've gone. He has some history on neutering the Conservative Party. Look at the statements, see how that's gone. Wife, chief executive of Google, Netflix. What was the other one that was here? Ah, yes. Google, Netflix. Yes. Rich people. Nothing against rich people, don't get me wrong. But billionaires don't necessarily hang out with people who make hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they sure as heck don't hang out in the streets of Compton with the homies. Billionaires hang out with billionaires to figure out how to become more wealthy as billionaires. 50,000 employee positions removed from the state basically amounts to less than 900 employees per county. And there are 58 counties in California. It's a big state. Not a doubt. 58 counties worth of employees, 900 employees in total throughout your county. And again, Mr. Hilton has a lot of experience with the UK, but I don't think he has a whole hell of a lot of experience in California governance, much less the governance of the United States of America, in spite of what people are informing him about. I served 6 years with the federal agencies, Department of the Interior, as they're now called. But I started with the Bureau of Reclamation, the water folks, 6 years retired, 11 years with the County of Sacramento, Department of Human Assistance, i.e. the Welfare Office, 11 years retired, U.S. military, 15 years retired, 4 years with the Franchise State Tax Board. They weren't permanently hiring, but I got to be passed around their agencies during our off seasons and got to work a little bit in all those agencies and to see how the state works. In every group, except for the military, but in every group, county, feds, state, we'll focus on the state and the county level. We have what they call organizational charts. You folks should know what those are. The line-by-line graph on who does what, how many people are assigned, who's in charge, and all that other 9-yard stuff. Yes, they all have them. Each organizational chart is filled with a name, comes with a title, position, job functions you find in the HR handbooks on what those agencies are supposed to do, how they're supposed to be staffed, how many people are in it to work, how many supervisors, managers, etc., etc. So that's the fast, this is how that all works out moment. 900 employees. Every agency literally has a 10% gap of how many people are supposed to be there and how many people are really there. 10% fluff, I used to call it. Used to point this out on Mark Williams' radio talk show back in the days on KFBK. When I worked for the state, I ran under the name Leo of Sacramento, or, excuse me, Leo the disgruntled state worker. When I got into the county, I ran under the name of Leo of Sacramento on his radio show. Most interesting. Everybody has a 10% fluff of staff. So in layman's terms, excuse me, that means nobody's in those positions. They're there, but they're purposely kept empty. No one's hired for them because management uses the money they receive for those open positions for their personal usage or their department's usage. Sometimes overtime, sometimes bonuses, sometimes God knows what, because it's all the manager's discretions. So what does that mean for the basic man that doesn't know anything about state agencies? 10% of an agency, if you had 1,000 employees, you actually only have 900 that are there. 100 positions are being funded by the state for purposes nobody knows about because that's all the manager's discretion on how to use the income, hidden under administrative costs or other various programs that they would like to do. They may or may not kick it back to be poured into the general fund to spend on programs. You cut 900 people out of the mix at the state level has done absolutely nothing because you can kind of, people are retiring, people are leaving, some people get terminated, some people get everything else, but you haven't done anything. So in order to start cutting or fixing the problem, we'll start with the state level, sir, since we want to play there. This was my solution, still is my solution, because I know I'm not needing to be told by pretend people. What I would do if, upon assuming governorship, is require all state department heads to give me that listing. Your department, who's supposed to be in it, how many people you actually have in it. And if there's a fluff, those positions will be gone. That is the end of that extra cost we're incurring in California. Some of the grift starts there. Mr. Hilton wants to eliminate 50,000 employees. Sounds kind of catchy. A lot of people don't like state workers or government workers in California anyway, so I understand the sentiment. The problem is when you start putting it into practice, generally when we say we're going to let 50,000 employees go, that's exactly what it is meant. 50,000 employees, 900 per county. Maybe a real person in the mix somewhere. What have you fixed? Absolutely nothing. Who cares? You let the workforce go. Have you adjusted any attitudes in the department, sir? Nope, not a one. Have you changed the direction of the departments? Nope, you sure haven't. Have you impacted the department to instill changes? No, you have not. What you have done was made a bunch of people happy for the moment because not knowing any better, they think you did something impressive, and you actually have done nothing. Those positions may be eliminated, but guess what? They're going to be surged right back up. Hiring freeze? Exception to policies incurred, folks. Too many staff gone. We can't operate. Got to have some people. And if we don't have full-time employees, we can kind of get around the language and put in part-time employees. Or we could do one better, which is contract employees. They're not hired by the state, contracted out and hired by somebody else to fulfill the state jobs, which means we're going to pay our buddies more money and pay those employees less than the state workers. Might work out good to some people, but is detrimental to the state because now you're going to pay 3 times the amount for an employee out of a temporary agency. That's a possibility I could see happening. Has it happened before? Hard to say. I'm not in the management team. My solution to some of this grift is very simple, starting with the EDD department manager. I'd like to know what happened, why it happened, what's been done to fix it. To date, I haven't seen any progress, words, commentaries whatsoever about how we're going to get our $35 billion back of the ill-gotten money that was sent out pell-mell throughout the nation. the nation, the state, the world. How are we getting some of that money back? My goal is to recover up to 75% of those lost incomes. And the manager has some explaining to do. Has some explaining to do on what fixes have been instilled in that agency since that debacle. And again, haven't seen or heard a whole hell of a lot about what's going on in EDD. Where do you think the first axe is going to fall? It sure as hell ain't staff. It's the people appointed there, the people hired there, the management team. And then we're going to pick apart some supervisors there that facilitated that mess. I'm not here to start from the bottom up. I'm here to fix it from the top down, to ensure that we get the right mentality in these agencies, that fraud, waste, and abuse is not to be tolerated, championed, or overlooked and ignored. That's my goal. And I don't need to create a new agency to see if it's happening. You already have one in place. It's called the management team. I'd like to look at some of these management teams and find out if we have 8 or 9 assistant directors underneath the director. And if we do, how many of those need to go away, the positions with them. I'm not going to create a new agency to incur more cost to the civilians here, the citizens of this state, under the guise of trying to stop fraud, waste, and abuse. NGOs. You haven't really said anything about the NGO department, so let me be a little bit clear on where I stand with NGOs. You're going to all be investigated, period. We're going to find out where that money went to. I don't want to see another incident where a young lady representing an NGO, some CEO type individual, has the brass to stand there or sit there in front of a legislative question and answer session and literally say, we receive millions of dollars, have no idea where it was spent, but if you pay us $5 million more, we can give you a detailed report in the coming year. Seriously? Yeah, that's not going to happen. We're going to investigate where those monies went to. We're going to look at the contracts to make sure you are fulfilling those contracts. And if not, then your organization owes the state of California and the citizens thereof funds to be returned for breach of contract, according to your promises. We're going to start sending out folks to make sure that we have homeless shelters that are doing exactly what they're saying they're doing. Feeding the homeless, housing the homeless, providing for the homeless. And if you're not doing that, then we're going to close those businesses down, revoke and remove their licenses and those facilities. That incident down in LA was embarrassing enough, but that should set the tone. I'm not hostile, I'm just overly zealous in what it is I'm going to try and do. And I'm not combative because there's no nice way of saying that you owe the state money and we're going to come and collect it from you if you've defaulted on your paperwork. We have Mr. Hilton going down there to visit Mr. Mahan in San Jose, California. That gentleman had the gall to say that only 6 candidates have come down to visit him. Well, surprise, surprise, 5 of them were Democrats. Mr. Hilton is the only Republican so far. But let's be a little bit realistic, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Mahan, to date, now granted it was just today, but Mr. Mahan has rejected a request for an invitation to see his homeless program in effect. Well, he doesn't have to see you, Leo. No, he doesn't have to see me. I'm requesting to be seen, just like Mr. Hilton, so that you can broadcast to the other candidates who might want to visit, this is what we've done in San Jose. This is how we're running our programs. Why is it only Mr. Hilton gets the privilege to going down there? And don't tell me that BS because he's the #1 candidate on the Republican side. He's the Republicans that the Democrats want. Because when he was down there, I didn't hear too much commotion from Mr. Hilton describing why we're paying $2,000 a square foot for a tiny home for homeless people. We didn't see the conditions inside the homes. We saw the establishment of them from the outside. You're spending a lot of money to do what? And you're only helping 350 people out of all your population of homeless folks down there? What kind of scam is that? But that's the type of nonsense that we have. Of course they would want Mr. Hilton to go down there and be the only one that they can showcase down there because it's engineered and selective viewing for you, the audience, to see, oh, we had a Republican candidate down here. The only one that has come down to see our wonderful program. Now that old saying, the rich hang with the rich? No different here, ladies and gentlemen. No different here. I was once invited in the military to be on a quality assurance team. That was the only time I was allowed to go on a quality assurance team, one time. Well, Leo, that sounds kind of bad. They only let you go on the team one time? Sure did. Yes, they did. One time, that was it. Because the office that we went to investigate, they gave me a booklet. Use this as an example. Here's the booklet. Pretend it's a booklet. See that? This is what we're looking for. This is what we're trying to do. This is how we're trying to create. This is how we're trying to fix. This is how we're fixing it. This is where we're going. This is where we've been. Blah, 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 blah. All the nuances for an office being inspected. Quality assurance, they called it. Sergeant Naranjo was on the team. Sergeant Naranjo got one of these booklets. Sergeant Naranjo was given 5 hand-picked cases that the office provided for me to look at so that I would pass their inspection. And what did I do? Because first I had to make sure. We have booklets, Sergeant Naranjo. We don't necessarily have to follow them. It's suggested that you do. But yes, you can ask other questions. With that, my booklet went on my desk. I never picked it back up. And when they brought me the ones that they wanted me to look at, I pushed them neatly to the side. And I said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here to inspect what you're getting ready to give me to see. I want to inspect what I know is incorrect. Yeah, my report was not flattering when I found out what they were hiding, which was the last time I was on an inspection team. I think people would say, well, Leo, you didn't play the game. You're right, I didn't. Because I don't play games. And that was a game. You passed your inspections because you buffaloed everybody that came through, and you showed them what you wanted to show them so that you look good. That's how commanders got rewards and awarded. That's how NCOs got awards. That's how the troopies got time off because they passed inspection. But everybody knew nothing was ready to be inspected. You just prayed nobody found out the truth or the dirt or had somebody like me that actually looked for problems to get fixed or saw them and reported on them. $50,000 people, employees about ready to lose their jobs. 900 people per county. That's not even a dent in the workforce. But I digress. Let us move forward. So let's say you get rid of those 900 people, have no idea who they are, so you have no idea how much you're actually going to save. You have no idea where they are in the process, so you have no idea whether or not you're going to impact the organization that you are now cutting staff from. And everybody is going to fight that because they have what's called an exception to policy. Mission critical. We can't let anybody of our IT staff go. They might be all H-1B holders, visa holders, special people. We might be getting paid from the feds for these guys to be here. Get $100 for the employee, only give the employee about $50. I know how that game works too. Seen that in action a lot. You don't believe me? Go down to your nearest temp agency and work for somebody and see what they pay you. And if they're giving you $20 an hour, imagine what they're giving the company that hired you for the people that are working you. They're in the process of making money off you. Imagine that. So we don't know if these cuts are going to amount to anything. We don't know if the savings are going to be anything. Any managers and supervisors, middle managers in that mix? Mr. Hilton doesn't say. I do, because I'm very direct on what I'm going to do to help start to fix the problems in California. It's not a bunch of platitudes like he's giving you. Let's touch on the elephant in the room. 21 public sector contracts. That's a haughty number. 21 public sector contracts. You're going to revisit 21 public sector contracts. I'd love to be the fly on the wall for that one, because I can tell you right now, you've already lost, Mr. Hilton. You have no idea what you would do with public employee contracts because you have no idea how to deal with public employee unions. You're not a union member. You never were a union member. So far from what we've seen from most bravado-ish people that have tried to tackle the unions, you're going to be told what they want. You're going to make some positional, we're not going to do that. But as soon as the money starts getting waived, you'll cave. And if you don't cave, it doesn't matter. That's what we got the legislature for, and the congressmen, and the senators, and the state senators, and the city councils, everybody else that's in the mix that knows how that is going to be gained. They're going to wear you out because you're that type of person that'll be worn out. Oh, you'll make some deals because you might want some things that nobody will know about until you get them. And the union will demand things, but in order to make you happy so that everybody looks good, we'll fight, we'll fuss, we'll do this, we'll do that. Hell, we might even have a day or two of strike so you can take employees' wages. And then we're going to settle on the 4, 5, or 6% pay raises that we know will be coming. The reduction of certain billing that we know the employees will get. The removal of certain costs that are going to be shifted to the public. And the enhancements towards retirement that you'll grant to keep everybody happy in the state running. There's a gentleman here online that came up with a really interesting idea that I thought was highly asinine when he said it. Let's charge employees 10% of their retirement to help pay for the hugely and grotesquely mismanaged CalPERS funds, the California Retirement Pension Fund. I thought it was a dumbass idea. Let me just be brutally honest. It was a dumbass idea. You're going to charge employees 10% of their retirement to fix screwballs mess up of that fund. I don't even know what Mr. Hilton would even do on this topic, but I can tell you what he hasn't done, hasn't spoken about it, hasn't even touched it. Why is that? Because it's a hot topic. It's a toxic topic, and he's not going to go there until he's finally pushed to go there. So anyway, I thought it was a real dumb suggestion, but then I had to think about it, and I mulled it over in my head for a while, and I've come to a interesting proposal. I wrote back to the person that actually made the initial suggestion with my counter proposal. I thought your initial suggestion was asinine. Yes, I still stand by that, sir. Haven't wavered. But after thinking about it a long time, it is interesting. However, the portion of charging the employees the fund directly and putting it to the vote to see if the voters are good for that, I do not agree with whatsoever. I don't think the employee should suffer at the hands of the voters for the stupidity of the legislatures and the people in charge of the CalPERS funding. My first act as governor is going to be to fire those SOBs that screwed up and left us with over $1 trillion of debt because instead of being fiduciarily responsible with employees' monies, they became politically entertaining and politically motivated to only invest in what Gino Gavin wanted. instead of telling Gino Gavin to kick rocks. Their responsibility, and for those of you who work in CalPERS, let me start off with this. Should I be elected governor? Find your union reps, because we're going to have that type of a conversation. Get you a lawyer if you need be. We're going to have that type of a conversation. Your jobs in charge of CalPERS is to ensure the retirement fund for state employees is solvent, has money, makes money for the members who pour into it so that the public doesn't have to keep paying for it. That's what you should have been doing. You should have been investing on anything and everything that makes your fund money. Instead, you went political. You kicked off certain investments because it wasn't politically correct to do so, or it was politically correct to do so. You kicked off certain things that was anti-democrat, basically. You kicked into things that were meritless, the go green energy only concept, which is why, should I be elected governor, each and every one of you is going to be fired for incompetence and failure to do your jobs. Proof? Oh, we're going to have that. You've left us with $1 billion hole in our budget because of that fund's status of what you mismanaged. Relief for cause is what it's going to be. You're going to get the hell out of those positions, definitely. Some of the lower level management that joined you in the supervision, you didn't have the gumption to stand up and say this was wrong. Get your desk ready, because you're going to be going out the door too. And the employees should be getting the message, by that point, I'm not effing around. Your job, your sole job for that fund is to ensure that it's growing, that it grows, that it's financially healthy and stable to make the payments the employees have contractually obligated themselves to pay into so that they can receive on the end upon retirement. Yes, that's my goal. How are we going to start to fix that is another question. We're going to start by removing that riffraff that caused the problem. Now, as far as the employees up and down the state with these so-called 21 contractual changes, well, like I said, I had to relook at that initial statement, and I've tinkered, and this is my proposal. You folks out there can determine its validity. But should I be elected governor, it's going to be number one topic of negotiations. Currently, there are all kinds of contracts floating out there. Fire, police, they're usually the most lucrative. Regular employees, 1 or 2 level tweak, they're in there also. Each one pays a percentage of their pay towards their retirement. I think it's retirement medical, by the way. Percentages are up and down. 5%, 6%, 8%, 7%, somewhere like that. So my goal is the employees will be responsible for that level across all bargaining units in the state of California to be incrementally raised per contractual obligations. If it's only 1%, 2%, that's fine. But the ultimate goal is 15% of the employees pay towards their retirement. That goal is going up. Now, I'd like to see it go up within the 4-year contract or whatever contract it is that you initiate with the state. That's for the union to determine. 4-year contract, you got an 8% gap. That's 2% a year. You're going to start charging your employees. You want a 6-year contract, and you got a 10% gap, and that's going to be 1% or so every year until you get to that 15% magical number. It won't move once you acquire that status on preceding contracts. That's the position that the state will take. Or, barring that, We can just impose a 10% penalty through the state to help make up the difference for the overwhelming amount of money that was lost because of management indiscretions. That money would start coming out of your retirement payment as a fee. It's kind of like what we do now, what I don't really like to do, but we will in this case. Because we also have in California the unique thing called budgetary enhancements for your retirement paycheck. Everybody knows what that is. That's part of the grift, Steve. You surge your overtime up. So you drive up your paycheck to max benefit, maximum retirement payout. I'm all for, if you have overtime to do, you have overtime to do. What I'm not for is using overtime to enhance your paychecks. That's a managerial problem that we're going to fix, because you need to justify what it is you're paying overtime for. The other thing we're going to fix is managers taking off all month long, showing up for a couple of days just to clock in their time and punch their numbers to get paid. We're going to put a kibosh on that too. Your job is to manage your department. Your ass is going to be in your office managing your department. Unless you want to be away from your office, and then we can facilitate you with that request. The overtime thing, yeah, that's a problem. But the budgetary gap, take the 10% out of retirees' checks upon retirement, or everybody goes up to the 15% level towards their retirement payments. I'm not putting that to the voters. That would be part of the contractual negotiations with the union. Let their members decide if they want to have a contract or not under those conditions. Depending on the information I would give once elected as governor and the information I receive about how screwed that CalPERS funding is, will let you know where I stand on that mentality. And you can pretty much assure it's looking kind of solid for me to discuss in that manner. That would almost be one of those, what the union call it, non-negotiable items. You're right, it would be. Now, for folks that played a game with that, because we've seen that played in the union, don't forget, I was a union member for 9 of my 11 years with the county. Who can last the longest on a strike? There'll be interruptions, I'm pretty sure. But every day your employees are on strike is another day they're not getting paid. If you're going to put that in the employees' hands, that's not threat, that's just fact. Unions use strikes as a tactic, just as the counties and the state uses their tactics. I'm going to put skin in the game. Let's put skin in the game, go all the way, get it off the back of the taxpayers. I don't have problems with unions. What I have is a problem with the union leadership. The union itself is made up of a lot of voters throughout the state of California. This is pretty much tantamount to saying they're declaring war on the unions. They are. Open up contract negotiations. Should I be elected governor? Same way Mr. Hilton wants to do, but he wants to revisit them. You know what that language means, ladies and gentlemen who don't know what that means? That's called they're going to find a way to open your contracts, mid-contracts, to start making changes. I never said anything about revisiting. I said upon the next contractual obligation, once your initial one ends and we start renegotiating for the new ones, these are going to come into effect. I would know better than to sauce up a contract unless there was a dire need. California has problems, but that's not the dire need reason to reopen negotiations. I know that. He doesn't. So it's a neat policy trick. It's a neat parlor trick. We're talking about fraud, waste, and abuse. I'm still for fraud, waste, and abuse, ladies and gentlemen. If you spot it, see it, know it, whatever, go to your agencies, go through the proper channels, and report those things. People that report them have protections. And from what I understand, there are some agencies out there that, depending on the amount saved, you might actually get a residual payment for that saving by reporting that problem. That's an incentive. Fully agree with that. But this pell-mell, we're going to pick up the Doge thing like Elon Musk and we're going to start carving through California. That's games, ladies and gentlemen. Pure and simple. Parlor tricks for TV. For those of you who are not employees with the state, the county, or any other local agency, that is things that make you, the public, pissed off at your counterparts who are in government service. That's for you in government service to know that they're getting ready to do a hatchet job on you. Wink, wink, nod, nod, because we know where that hatchet job will fall on things that don't matter so that you can still keep your positions and do what you've been doing all these years. Audits, please. Got all kinds of audits. GAO office audits. Finance office audits. Everybody's auditing. You got audits to ad nauseum in the state of California. Hell, you want to cut out a lot of waste and abuse, drop all these audits and these teams that create the audits that do nothing. Because no matter how many times you audit, unless you're getting ready to drag somebody out of their office on charges, you've done nothing. Hilton is a prime example. 7 at least, grand jury reports have come back against the city of Hilton, California. Thought I forgot about you people, didn't I? Wink, wink. Report after report after report, dragged through by the grand jury. You people have not provided the state with a budget in nearly 5, if not 6 fiscal years. How in the hell could you have done that and not arrested somebody in that government chain? We could play the finger game all day long. Well, it's not our problem. It's the city manager. Well, it's not my problem. They're the elected officials. All of you should have been dragged on the carpet. I don't care who it was that was to blame for that mess. You all had a hand in it. Let the chips fall where they may. For the city manager down there, everybody told me you were a thug. Not much of one when I showed up, were you? Forgotten about that? No, I haven't forgot about Hilton at all. That's one of those cities. We're going to find out what the hell happened down there to put you in the position that you're in. But I'm not looking for an audit. I'm not looking for an excuse. I'm not looking for an explanation. I'm tired of all that. I'm looking for somebody's backside to be put on charges or to be investigated, fired, removed, whatever you want to call it. But we're going to fix that problem down in Hilton. You, for some reason, are intent on destroying the city. I, for some reason, am intent on saving the city because it has a lot of history. I don't care how small it is, what it has, what it doesn't have. Something else is in the background driving your push to destroy that city. Got somebody building houses down there. All kinds of neat units. Well, how do you have all these homes going up with construction and your city's going bankrupt because you can't afford the tax base? How are you getting all that construction for people to live in a town that's not going to be a town anymore? Hell, you couldn't even keep your own town hall. Your city hall is part of the we foreclosed on a loan for a bridge. Fraud, waste, and abuse. Here's another one I want to remind you of on fraud, waste, and abuse. This is about 2 years old now. You thought I forgot. No, I haven't forgotten at all about this. Everybody else has because nobody talks about it. Reedley, California. We're also going to do a little back checking in Woodland to find out what the hell happened with that firework explosion, but that's for another video for another day. But Reedley, California, I haven't forgotten about you at all. Somebody allowed a Chinese biowarfare lab to build in Reedley, California. Somebody covered its tracks while it operated in Reedley, California. Somebody got upset when that state worker found that location and exposed it to the media in Reedley, California. And just as fast as it was found, somebody protected and covered up its disposal because that site was cleaned out and flattened. The people involved disappeared in Reedley, California. And I'm going to be looking into that to find out who, what, where, when, and why, and how that ever happened in this state. Maybe that was something Gino Gavin did, was allow the Chinese government to operate a biowarfare lab in his state. Thank God it's no longer going to be his state. But that was a travesty that should never have happened. Matter of fact, that travesty has opened up a lot more that I need to look into, detailing Travis Air Force Base, excuse me, and the land acquisitions around that for a so-called quote-unquote community, new age city, 15-minute city, all electric, all modern, all-encompassing city around an active military base here in Northern California, one of the last in this area. Oh no, I hope that you folks that got all that acquisition are happy, fat, and happy right now and secure in the knowledge that it's still yours, because should I get elected to governor, we're going to find out who the hell bought up all that land, how they bought up on that land, who actually owns it, not the shell corporations pretending to own it. And we're going to start making some corrections on boundaries there bordering an active military base to make sure that base stays open and operational and doesn't hamper our security for the state nor the nation. I haven't forgotten about that at all. DMV, you thought I forgot about you? No, you're next on the totem pole. Your director's on the short leash also. And many of your supervisors are on the short leash. So I just wanted to impose and to impart and leave with you folks out here today. Don't fall for the okie doke. You don't hear about me because the news media won't put me on the air. Why should I? Why should they? It's their station. They're not making money off me. But they're going to push the people who can pay to be on the air, which is Steve and Chad. Chad doesn't know anything because he's too much of a coward running away from me to have a debate one-on-one. I yield to his terms. He still won't debate with me. And political pundits all up and down the state are telling me, Leo, he's not going to. He's not going to. I want each and every one of you out there to hear that phrase. Mr. Bianco will not engage me one-on-one under his terms for any type of a debate with a 36-year experienced Army retired veteran. He won't do it. Because he's first in the polls? Well, hell, that sounds like a Kamala Harris move to me. Or a Joe Biden move to me. Let's hide in the basement. See the coward that I keep calling him out as? Seems like it. What are you afraid of, sir? You're the sheriff. You're the guy. You don't want to meet with me and having a one-on-one debate. You'll go to some forums, have some chit-chat, coffee, tea, and crumpets. That's about it. But you won't discuss life in California. You want to stay on the topics you want to talk about because they're safe. Adversity is not in your line of work. Confronted with adversity, you knelt. I'd hate to see what would happen if ICE mobs, anti-ICE mobs came down to your little location in California, Riverside County. Would you kneel just as fast in support with them for the injustices? Just recently I have a statement posted out by you again. You are not going to facilitate anything dealing with illegal immigrants. Immigration is not your purveyance. That's the purveyance of the federal government. You are not going to do a thing. Picking and choosing which laws to do, which laws to abhor, which laws to enforce or to stay with. Kind of find that funny too. The law and order sheriff. Now we're picking and choosing which laws. Well, Leo, you don't understand. Somebody gets raped in my county, I want them to feel free to report that they got assaulted. So, are you de facto telling me, Sheriff Bianco, that you're engaging in trafficking by protecting those people from violent people who prey on them? Well, the violent people who prey on them should have already been in jail, turned over to ICE. So how are you getting your folks attacked? I've never knelt. Oh, okay, that photograph speaks for itself. Donald Trump himself said the day it happened, there was no third assassination attempt against him. But you stay with the Vem Miller was the third assassin that tried to attempt the life of Donald Trump, tried to kill him. That's why your ass is in a lawsuit right now, which is why you can't have Mr. Miller anywhere around where you're at. And for part of our debate purposes, I agree with that too. Mr. Miller cannot be around. I'll yield that for you. My demand on us having a debate, my family will be there. That's it. That's not even a really death-defying demand, sir. My family needs to be there. That's the only demand I have, to sit with your happy slappy and have a debate. Your 30 years versus my 36. You're a sheriff. I'm a retired Army veteran. You've got years of experience dealing with government. So do I. 30 versus 36. You have, well, you raised your budget from not 2.5. You raised your budget from 250 million to 1.2 billion. I don't know if that's a good thing to brag about. Me, I've dealt with budgets, dealt with government checks, dealt with government funds, been a 14-year top secret clearance holder. That amounts for something. Federal government entrusted me with their best kept secrets for 14 years. You do have me in this experience level, however. You have knelt to a mob. I never have. In the face of many adversities, I've never done that. And I've had things that I've stood up against, which is probably why I never made it to the supervisor level, because I didn't play the game to BS as well as you. But I will leave you with this. I'm a very good damn number cruncher. Very good. That's not bragging. That's not bravado. That's just stating a fact. You ran for an election in your county of 1.3 million eligible voters, and between you and the sheriff who ran opposite of you, that deputy, the two of you only got 200,000 votes. Using my math rounded up, that was barely 13% of your electorate voted to put you in office. 13%. Let that sink in also, folks. Chad Bianco won his race with less than 13% of the voters in Riverside County. That's about where you are in the polls right now. Haven't really gone very far, have you? In spite of all the people protecting your sorry backside and pushing you through the Republican system. Oh, by the way, the Republicans abandoned you long ago when they thought Mr. Gibson was going to jump in, or Mr. Woods. Now that Steve's in, you're kind of there, but you're not really there. 13% is all the two of you could get out of your Riverside County. Less than 200,000 votes out of 1.3 million voters eligible to cast a ballot. 1.1 million people sat out your election. I don't see that as overwhelming support of people who love you in the county. But I'm hearing some ugly rumors that you have a lot of folks down there that live in your county who aren't necessarily supposed to be living in your county because they're unauthorized citizens from other nations who just happen to migrated with your protection. Hell, they're not worried about the bad guys preying on them. Well, that's what you seem to be doing, allegedly. Got your protected folk down there. And you're not going to be involved in fixing our state. Just want to make that clear. So with that, anytime you want to crunch numbers, sir. Oh, one last one before we go tonight. You stated on Kim Yeater's show that your deputies only got about 5% pay raises, the normal pay raise increase in Riverside County for deputies. And I told Miss Yeater, I believe on her show, if not at the convention, if I was a deputy on your staff, hell, I'd vote for your happy ass too. You're giving me damn near 15% pay raises. Hell yeah, I'll vote for you. Because that's about what you were doing with your deputies. 10 to 15% pay raises. Huge surges of income. Who's paying for that? Technically, the people of Riverside County, but overall, the people of the state of California. Because the county has to ask the state for funds to pay their bills, and you're one of the bills. $635,000 a year for your paycheck right now, taking the information you had on your past contracts, breaking out some averages from what you've said to what the contracts actually state. The raises that you've somehow managed to acquire, I've come out with the neat little figure that your next 2 years worth of pay raises, because you got 2 years left on your contract, each year will give you a minimum 10% raise of your current salary. What does that mean for you? By the time you get done playing around acting like a sheriff, your salary will be no less than $750,000 a year. Oh my. And you're worth how many millions right now? How did that happen if you're just a sheriff? That's another video for another day. Because I'm going to give you exactly what you want, sir, should I be elected government. The audit on your department to find out what the hell you've been doing down there in Riverside County. And Lord help you if there was anything wrong or flagrant. That's fact of what will happen. I like numbers. I'm sure you have numbers too. But you're going to be one of the biggest embarrassments of California with over $750,000 a year paycheck as a sheriff. And what was the statement that you made here most recently on one of these podcasters? Even if you lose, it doesn't matter. You'll just go back to Riverside County and finish off your term as sheriff. Kind of tells you where you stand for the state, don't it? Fraud, waste, and abuse. Who is paying for your campaign to run up and down the state of California campaigning on your behalf with sheriff equipment? Your campaign or the citizens of Riverside County? And right now, it looks like the citizens of Riverside County. So, Mr. Hilton, there's your fraud, waste, and abuse beginnings right there. Oh, wait. You're selective on who you're going to audit. I'm not. The chips fall where they fall. So other than that, God bless y'all. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Going to be traveling here soon. Don't forget, paperwork is due 5 o'clock on the 4th of February. You have to have your minimum required signatures to get on the ballot. We have almost 75 to 78 people who put in an interest to run for the governor of the state of California. 78 maximum individuals, from the Democrats to the Republicans to the no parties. Mr. Mercury jumped into a no party preference status. Odd, but okay. Independents, Greenpeace, Communist Party, American Independent. There's all kinds of names up there of people wanting to run for the governor of California in 2026. And very soon, that number will dwindle. My name is Leo Naranjo IV. Thank you for staying with me, putting up with my rantings for the moment. I don't have a big podium. I don't have a big fan club or the pretend crowd. I'll make noises next time when I get my phone charged up so you can hear the sound effects of the applause and all the other BS that goes with it. But that's not me. It is what it is. Each and every one of you have a blessed night. Take care. I leave you with this for my fellow Christians out there. When you're looking at candidates and you start to see who's running and you start to hear who's running, vet them out and put them to the standard that you keep trying to hold me to. You don't know who I am because everybody wants to block you from knowing who I am. So if you're a Christian, if you're heavily into the Christian faith, as some of you like to profess, this is what I would like to offer you. 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7. Look that up, and then look at your candidates again in the new light of what I've just informed you with. First and foremost, I'm running for the citizens of this state, and it hasn't wavered in over 2 years of me making that statement. God bless you all. Have a great evening. We'll see you soon.